Hello and welcome to Ancient Myths of the Current Era, a series where I dive deep into the mythology behind one of the greatest MOBAs of all time known as Smite. This series will hopefully give you a better idea of who's who in the wide selection of gods and goddesses available in the world of Smite. In today's video we are going to talk about Thor, so let's get started.
Easy go.
Thor in modern depictions is shown as blonde, however, he is described in the poems and myths about him as having red hair, a red beard, and fierce eyes. He is also shown using his most famous tool, his mountain-destroying hammer, Mjolnir. He wears a belt called Meyingirv and iron gloves called Jarngripr. Thor is famously associated with thunder, lightning, and storms. However, he is also associated with oak trees, strength, hallowing, and fertility. Thor is also depicted as the protector of mankind. While his association with fertility may not have been as important as his association with thunder and lightning, it was still a very important role. Farmers during ancient times worshipped Thor for his storms that he brought with him, because with storms comes the rain, and with the rain brought fertility to the farmers' fields. Just as Thor has many associations, he also has many family members. Thor is the son of Odin and Jörv, who is essentially Earth personified. From Odin came many brothers for Thor. Some of his more notable brothers are Balder, Vidar, and Vali. Thor got married to Sif, a beautiful blonde-haired goddess, and had a daughter named Thorguvr. Like many a married man and god, Thor also had a lover on the side, a Jotun named Jarnsaxa. Through his relationship with Jarnsaxa, he had a son by the name of Magni. Thor also had another son, Move, from another lover. As well as having two sons of his own, Thor also had a stepson, Allur. Thor had two servants by the names of Jálfi and Röskva. To transport himself around, he had a chariot pulled by two goats, whose names were Tengrisnir and Tangnoster. He also had 3 homes, because one isn't enough, right? Bilskirner, Thrudheimer, and Thrudvangur. Thor also owned a staff called Gridalvlur, though he mostly sticks with his hammer, Mjolnir. Just as Thor has many homes, there are also a lot of stories about him. One such story speaks of a great battle between Thor and Jormungandr, the Midgard or world serpent. During Ragnarok, which is essentially the end of the world that brings about the beginning of a new world, Thor will fight Jormungandr as it threatens to swallow the earth. Thor manages to defeat the Midgard serpent, but succumbs to its venom after taking only 9 steps. After all is said and done, Thor's sons, Magni and Movi, carry on his legacy, Mjolnir. In another story, Thor is traveling west from the east until he comes across an inlet at which he encounters a ferryman. The ferryman gives the name Howard Barber, but is really Odin in disguise. Thor attempts to hail a ride from the ferryman, but Howard Barber replies by immediately being rude and obnoxious and refuses to ferry Thor. Thor holds his tongue at first, but the ferryman gets more aggressive. The two men begin a fighting match, which is where two or more people insult, curse, and just be unpleasant to each other. Just remember, this is Thor's father in disguise. During this match, Thor reveals that he killed several Jotnar and Berserk women on Hlessi. After all the insulting and arguing, Thor continues walking instead of getting a ferry. In another story, the gods had been hunting, and after eating their prey, they get thirsty. They decide they should go to Aegir's home in search of suitable cauldrons for brewing drinks. Thor arrives at Aegir's home, in which Aegir throws extravagant parties for the gods, and tells him that he must prepare feasts for the gods. Aegir tells Thor that first he has to bring him a suitable cauldron to brew ale. The gods search to no avail to find a cauldron. Tyr then tells Thor that he knows of a solution. Tyr says that east of Yelavigar lives Hymir, who owns a cauldron deep enough to brew ale. Thor and Tyr set out to Hymir's hall to get the cauldron. When they arrive, Tyr finds his 900-headed grandmother and gold-clad mother. After Hymir comes inside from the cold outdoors, Tyr's mother helps them find a kettle. At dinner, Thor ate 2 oxen while everyone else ate 1, and then he went to sleep. In the morning, he tells Hymir that he wants to fish before he leaves. Hymir then sends Thor into his pasture to get bait. Thor finds Hymir's best oxen and rips its head clean off. When the two are fishing, Hymir catches 2 whales, and Thor's line, with the oxen head as bait, is bitten by the Midgard serpent, Jormungandr. Thor pulls the serpent onto the ship and violently slams the serpent's head with his hammer, Mjolnir. Jormungandr shrieks, and a commotion is heard from underwater. Thor lets the serpent go and goes ashore with Hymir. Hymir asks Thor to carry a single whale back to his farm. So in response, Thor grabs both whales and the boat and carries them to the farm. After smashing a crystal goblet against Hymir's head on Tyr's mother's suggestion, they took the cauldron and rolled it all the way to Aegir's home. They drank plenty of ale and returned every winter for more. In yet another story, Thor dresses as a bride in order to retrieve Mjolnir. Thor woke up one morning and found that his mighty hammer, Mjolnir, had been taken. Thor seeks out Loki and tells him of his misfortune, and says no one knows it is missing. The two of them seek out Freya, and Thor asks her if he can borrow her feather cloak, which allows one to fly. She agreed to lend it to Thor, and Loki put it on and flew off in search of the hammer. Loki flies into Jotunheim and finds the Jotun Thrymr, who says he has it and will only give it up if Freya agrees to be his wife. Loki and Thor plead with Freya to do it, but she refuses. The gods and goddesses then hold a thing, which is a governing body of northern German society, to discuss the matter. They come to the conclusion that Thor dressing as a bride is the only way. Thor is outraged but wants his hammer back, so he agrees. Thrymr falls for the deception, and when he presents Mjolnir as a gift for his bride, Thor grabs it and slaughters the Jotun attending.